sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and can even keep you from getting the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS.
I would say somewhere between 10 and 20, and I think you should always be in the marketplace validating your idea. I mean, I think because the world changes every flicking day, and the market can change, and there could be different needs that come up, and maybe you find a thin vein that you're all down the pipe with, and maybe there's a whole nother river over here. Mm-hmm. We could talk about blue ocean versus red ocean, all that kind of stuff, but it's continuing to have those conversations and make sure you know what people are talking about and what they're struggling with.
I absolutely love that. And I tell whenever a company comes through an accelerated program that I'm coaching, I always tell them that your goal should be able to get 30 discovery calls set up, meaning you should get 30 conversations in the next 60 days. Yep. If you can get to that number, even if you don't hit it, you get close, 10, 20, whatever, you're going to understand if you have a market fit that can be validated.
And you
need to have that many conversations that is focused on them, their pains, and their problems that you can help solve before you can kind of spout off that you're solving these things. And then the second thing you said that I absolutely love, because I think founders fall trap to this, is you have to always be listening to your customer. Once you find that and you stop listening, you start iterating all these things, you can iterate away from their customers, which I see happen all the time. You need to stay and have one ear to the ground with your customers and understanding the market, because it changes so fast. So I loved that.
I think one of the first things you and I talked about when we first talked a year or two ago was Lean Startup, was the book Lean Startup, right? Was create a beta version and then see how it goes and see what happens and see what sticks and what doesn't. But you said something that I think people mess up too. When they have these 30 calls, they want to go blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you about the features and benefits of my product. And in those conversations, what we need to be doing is asking questions. So do you have this kind of problem? What do you do about it now? How bad of a problem is it? How much money is it costing you to spend time just in the basic sense before you tell about all the good stuff your thing does? Find out how bad that problem is, because everybody's got a million problems, but there's only a few they've got bandwidth, time, money, effort, energy to fix. And you got to see, is your product something that there's enough pain around it, to use industry jargon, for people to spend money to fix it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that is crucial for so many entrepreneurs and founders out there. When the company's your baby, it's really easy to want to just talk about it, but you have to know when to stop and listen. And pre-show, you brought up 3 kind of things that founders should be thinking about, mindsets, as you will, around selling. I want you to share that with our listeners, because when you said those, they were just like, oh man, this is great. And so many people need to hear this. So would you mind sharing?
Sure, I'm happy to.
The
first one is ask, don't tell. It's what we were just talking about, right? Instead of telling somebody what their problems are, ask them. And when they give you an answer, say, tell me more about that. Give me an example. How often does that happen? How long has it been going on? Be sincerely curious. Instead of saying, here's your problem and here's how I'm going to fix it, ask them. Don't assume you know, right? So that's number 1. Number 2 is know that you have equal business stature with everybody you talk to. You are the same. You don't have to give stuff away for free. If somebody says, do you jump? You don't have to say how high. You can ask why. Be sure when you give if you give somebody something, including pricing or a demo, know what happens next. If I do this for you, will you do this for me? Right? If I'm okay giving you a demo, would you tell me at the end what you think about it? If I let you use this thing for a certain period of time, will you tell me whether or not you want to move forward? Equal business. You don't have to give and give and give. You can get something in return. In a negotiation, if you ever give something without getting something in return, the people think they got screwed. If you say it's $1,000, they say, I'll give you 900. You say, okay. They think, damn, I should have said 800.
Sure, it is. It's really hard when you're a new founder and you're fighting for every dollar and you're just trying to get something in to show a sale or to make some revenue. And I think this is something that every founder almost needs to like say as a mantra every day. Doesn't matter, how big or small the company you're selling to is, you have the same stature as them. We're both humans trying to run a business, and we can help each other. And it doesn't mean cutting the best deal or the biggest discount, or it means what can we do to help each other, and how do we pass that along back and forth.
And if somebody doesn't want to play in that
hard,
and if they don't want to play that, if the person you're talking to just wants to cut your ass, that's not the right guy, right? That's not so it's part of equal business stature. I'm going to wrap this in, is you're not the right fit for everybody. Even if they match your ideal customer profile and have exactly the problems you think that that would fix, they may be an asshole. They may not have any money. They may be just using free information. Be willing to walk away. It's okay. Yeah. If you had 10 more meetings with people who were very well qualified, would you stress over this one? Chances are the answer is no.
Absolutely. No, absolutely not. And it's one of those things that one bad client can eat up so much of your time that you don't have the capacity to sell to more of those really good ones, because you're so stuck on dealing with this one and you're limiting yourself. So know when to walk away. I love that. What's number 3?
Number 3 is be the guide and not the hero. And I got this from you. I know you read Storybrand by Donald Miller. He talks about characters in every story. And he talks about, it just used the Star Wars example to the hero, Luke Skywalker, versus the guide who was Yoda. And the hero is one that has a problem, saves the day. A lot of people go into sales to be the hero. They want to close the deal, ring the bell, get the check. Hell yeah. The problem with trying to be the hero all the time is that if you don't close the sale, by definition, you're not the hero, you're the loser. Well, sometimes, not everybody's going to close. It's not, you can control 50% of the process at best. So a guide is one who's determining, is this the right fit? Do I want to work with this person? Can I help them? Will they pay me? Does it make sense for me to move forward? A hero has to save everybody. A guide picks and chooses who they work with. And you're having a conversation, and your ego's not on the line for every sale.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and also, just by definition, being the hero makes it about you, because you're acting as the hero and not, it's the same thing that we talk about with like allyship, right? It's like, instead of, you want to be the ally, you want to be someone to help, not the hero. Like, I saved you, I did this for you. Like that's, you're seeing the whole issue wrong. And by definition, trying to be the hero makes it inherently about you and not about those you serve, which is the name of the game. When you're selling to a client.
Absolutely. Or to a prospect, right? So and so if we can, and again, those are easy to say. You talked about how this is so hard. Everything is hard when you're a founder. It's hard. The only reason you would do it and go through that kind of brain damage is if you feel like it would hurt so badly if you didn't put that out in the world. And if you don't feel that way, what you're doing, go get a job. And I don't mean that as any kind of put down. It's too hard.
Yeah. Entrepreneurship is not fucking easy. No. And that's why I call this the bare necessities. Right. Part of this podcast is to discuss these things about entrepreneurship.
I get my ass kicked every day. I get my ass kicked every day. Right. And shit, it's hard. And I've learned, this is something I read, was that don't ask for it to get easier, just ask to get better at it. And that's what I ask for every day. How can I get better at this to get myself in bigger problems instead of the smaller problems, right?
I love that. I want to respect your time, and I know we're going to wrap this up, but one of the things you also brought up, the point number 1, which is ask and don't tell. Yeah. What I really love about that piece as well is that I think because we live in a influencer-based world, everyone wants to be a thought leader, an influencer, a content creator. We all have to speak the loudest and be the loudest shouting. Yep. And again, that makes it about us. Yep. We need to stop yelling at people, telling people what they should and shouldn't buy. Ask those questions.
And so, go ahead. I was going to say,
when you do that, it changes.
It does. Brand building is sharing your message. Selling is listening. Brand building is talking about me. Put it out there. Selling is about you, about the prospect. And that's the difference. That's when you turn on, you listen. Your LinkedIn post is how smart you are and how cool your family is and all the cool things you're doing and everything else. But when you're in a sales call, it's never about you. That's the brand building is what got you there. Now shut the hell up and learn.
I love that. And, it's really funny because until we had this conversation, I was going to push back on a lot. And you've kind of brought me over to this idea, like there's building relationships, but within our relationships, there's subgroup. What's a business relationship?
Yeah.
What's, a friendship and whatever. And then where do we kind of draw those lines? And I think the more that you can be, especially if you have a client or a prospect that you're becoming friends with, it's really important to talk about that and like where does one end and begin? Because if we become friends and you don't buy from me, like am I going to not be friends with you anymore because you screwed me over and I was counting on you to like hit
that
my quota for the month?
happens all
like those
the
are
time.
things that you have. It does, and sometimes I've had this happen where like clients became really good friends of mine, and we had actually had to end our coaching relationship because we got too good of friends, and like I was okay with that, and that was what needed to happen, and that just happens. That's okay, but we had our wherewithal to discuss that and make those decisions. So those out there listening, it's important to be transparent, have those honest conversations, and know when to kind of like discuss those things. And as Walker says, know when to walk away on things that maybe come up.
One last thought. When you're dealing with a friend and you want to know how can I do business with a friend, is ask permission, which can sound like, hey, John, do you mind if we have lunch? I want to catch up with you. And I also want to have a business conversation. Is that okay? Or, hey, do you mind if we have a business conversation? So that they can then switch their lens to business. And then you can have these conversations. And with a friend, you say, look, this is so important. Your friendship's more important than any business deal. So I want to ask permission. Are you okay if we talk business? And then you got to give the friend permission to tell you no. And you can't take it personally. Because if you do, that's your own damn fault.
Walker, that is awesome. An awesome final point, and appreciate you sharing that with me. Where can my listeners find you?
Right.
How do they get in
So,
touch?
WalkerMcKay.com is my website. There's got contact information there. I've got a podcast, the No BS Sales School podcast, everywhere you listen to podcasts. And so that's as good a place as any. WalkerMcKay.com. If you do a Google search on Walker McKay, WalkerMckay, you'll find out all kinds of shit about me.
Awesome. Well, I will make sure to have your website, your LinkedIn, and your podcast linked in the show notes so they can easily one-click it. Walker, thank you so much for jumping on the pod again with me. I really appreciate you and your time and your energy. Much appreciated.
Y'all, if y'all have not subscribed to Rob's podcast, if you have not shared it with a friend, do so now. That's the way that you can pay him back for all the great content he shares.
Walker, I love that. Thank you for that. Bear Nation, as Walker said, be a tier 1. Like, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe. The more you do that, all helps. I appreciate y'all. Until next time, stay well and rise up.
Thanks for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast. If you haven't already, please take 1 minute to write a quick review for the show. It really does make a huge difference. Also, subscribe to the show and please forward this episode to somebody else who needs to hear it. As a bonus for listening, I'm going to give you access to a free mini course, 7 expensive sales mistakes you're making and what you can do about it. Go to www.7salesmistakes.com and get access to the free mini course. That's the number 7salesmistakes.com. Thanks again for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast.